In December of 2024, Ryan Fairfield and myself, Tony Lupo of the Warrior Next Door podcast, along with our families, were invited by Peter Lyon to visit the 80th anniversary of the American St. Nick Festival in Wiltz, Luxembourg. While we were there, we thought we'd be remiss to not, to go check out some other historical sites in and around the area. And we would have been remiss if we had not stopped at the Manhay History Museum in Manhay, Belgium. And this map shows the general location of where Manhay Museum is, and it's a fantastic museum. It's the second time we had been there. And this picture here shows us with the owner of the museum, Maggie, who was very gracious to allow us to tour the museum while Peter had his book signings there. And we had a special guest, or a special host, I should say, Bob Konings, who took us around the museum to show us a variety of the exhibits. But before we get to that, why is a museum in Manhay a good place to have a museum? Well, this next image shows what is the Bulge from the Battle of the Bulge, or the Ardennes Offensive in December of 1944, where the Germans were trying to push into Antwerp to separate or divide the British to the north and from the American forces to the south to create some sort of a separate peace. It was some sort of a fever dream that Hitler had that didn't come to fruition. But along this northern boundary is Manhay, and that's where the Germans were stopped cold. They would go no further, thanks to the contributions of a variety of military units, but primarily the 7th Armored Division and elements of the 82nd Airborne Division would prevent the Germans from going any further north than Manhay. That's where they stopped. And at these crossroads in Manhay, this important road network, a variety of battles and actions took place. And this one that Bob's going to talk about in the museum is what I call the Sneaky Panther. This is where a Panther tank inadvertently, in the middle of the night, during the days where the battle was raging back and forth in this area, got caught in an American convoy and had to fight its way out of said convoy. So we're going to let Bob Konings, local historian, general all-around awesome dude, and contributor to Snafu Docs, tell us more about what happened during this confusing evening with this particular Panther tank.
Battle Hay, he also lost one of his tanks. The track rolls off and he's having a firefight, and in the chaos that is emerging, Ernst Bartman, who is in the 4th or the 5th tank in row, he is thinking that the first part of the column is already moving on in the direction of Manhay. So he gets his tank out and starts driving in that direction. It's pitch dark, there's a lot of movement on the roads, and he ends up behind a couple of American tanks without knowing that he's the first one. So when he's realizing and he's heading to Manhay, he orders his men, don't fire the gun, just follow the other tanks, will be good. And when he's entering the crossroad, that's over here, there's an officer coming out of one of the houses, and he's the first one who recognizes him as a German Panther tank. So he's screaming on the road, there's a German, get it out, get it out. So he's realizing he's in a big trouble, and he speeds up, trying to get out of Manhay, directs his cupola to 6 o'clock so he can fire on Sherman tanks and jeeps that are following him. And when he's getting out of the village, he parks his tank in the middle of the woods because many people shot on his tank, and gets out of it, and he sees that the tank is too damaged to use it any further. So he goes after the battles in Manhay on foot with his crew to Manhay.
Unbelievable. I mean, both sides must have collectively shat themselves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, him for falling in with the tank, and then the Americans for like, what's going on here? Why is there a Panther tank in the middle of formation?
Yeah.
And then he gets shot up, retreating.
Yeah.
In a fighting retreat.
And then I think it's 15-20 minutes that Franz Frauscher is entering with his part of the column in Manhay that he already discovers. Well, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of troops retreating, and after that firefight, they took the town.
Fog of war.
Yes, yeah, this story is
unbelievable.
Well, that's a very well documented, well researched account of a Panther tank getting caught into an American column and having to fight their way out of there. And the confusion would also be exacerbated by the fact that the Germans apparently used captured American Sherman tanks and put them at the head of their columns to confuse the Americans during the Battle of the Bulge. We knew that subterfuge was used by the Germans on a variety of levels during the Battle of the Bulge, with Germans dressed as American soldiers to remove or change road signs and try to engage in acts of sabotage. But what I had never heard before is that they used captured Sherman tanks to put the columns in and lead these columns into combat. And a lot of Americans would have initially thought that this was maybe part of the 7th Armored Division. In reality, it was the spearhead of the 2nd or 9th Panzer SS Division. So listen on this next clip as Bob takes us through. We just heard the Sneaky Panther. This is called the Sneaky Sherman.
It's just a small corner here, but this is one of the most important stories that I can tell you from the Battle of the Bulge in this area. When the 2nd SS Reich took Manhay, they had left over around 21 Panther tanks. They were in trouble between Graminil and Manhay, and the rest of it entered Graminil, took the town, and then they moved on in the direction of Irisay. It's a winding road to the next town. It's Bristol, and it's close to Irisay. And while they are going out of Graminil, they have a Sherman tank as a distraction with 8 of their Panther tanks behind it. And they are running into the 289th Infantry Regiment of the 75th Infantry Division. It's their baptism of fire. And when they are going into a real small road, they run into guys from K Company, a bazooka team, and they have to firefight first. And it's such chaos and panic under those soldiers that they are running everywhere, and a lot of guys got killed. And one of their men, he's a corporal, he's firing his bazooka from behind the first Panther tank, knocking it out. And with that, this Panther tank is standing right in the middle of the road, blocking the exit for all the other Panther tanks. So on this small road, the 2nd SS Reich was blocked with one single bazooka shell, made by Richard Wigan. We know everything about it, have every document available about this guy, and we're missing his picture, but I have it at home, and maybe it's in the...
And so you're saying, so where did this occur? In Manhay, did you say?
Let's see if
Let's
it's...
see if we can get a map on it.
It's not on it.
Oh, okay.
It's falling off here, so... this is Graminil.
Yep.
This is going in the direction of Irisay, and it's just
Right
on the white.
on the west side of the edge.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
And with that only, it killed him.
Oh.
Yeah. We found out he got killed during the blast, so he fired his bazooka too close to the Panther tank. And that's what got him killed. But with this blocking of the 2nd SS Reich, it's over here.
And if I heard you correctly, you're saying that this German column was led by a captured Sherman tank?
Yeah.
As like a diversion, like you said, to confuse the enemy.
Yeah.
Oh.
And this story has been, a lot of people doubted that it was a Sherman tank. But I have a statement from a guy who was on the road, on the side of the road. His name is Cyril Rosenblatt. I have contact with his son Marty for years. And a couple of years ago, he sent me the statement of Cyril. And Cyril is on the side of the road, and they hear a lot of noise. It's the tanks that are moving in. And he says, and all of a sudden, I see a Sherman tank bypassing on high speed. And right behind him, it's a lot of Panther tanks. This guy is on the run for Panther tanks. What a hero. So he thought it was occupied with American troops in it.
Yeah.
So, and then later we were, what happened to the Sherman tank? That was a question that we had for a long time, but we found a statement from an engineer who is telling that he had to blow up a Sherman tank from the road because it was blocking the passage for all the other units coming from the Irisay area, so that 3rd Armored Division and the 75th. So when he's jumping on that Sherman tank, he opens the hatch and he sees 6 burned bodies in that tank. So he's like, if I blow up this tank, they never will be getting home again. But an order is an order, so he blows up the tank with TNT. And a big chunk of that tank apparently is rolling into a steep valley. And I think we have found a piece of it. It's identified as an armored plate that is 5 kilos of steel. And with the statements that we have from all the veterans, I'm 100% positive it was that Sherman.
Wow.
As a distraction.
It's so cool that you've done all the grunt work to make sure that we could establish all these little stories, all these little dramas that were going on in a much larger one.
And I must say, thanks to the families from America and all the documents that we can get. We work with a group in America. It's named Footsteps Researchers from Myra Miller. She's coming a lot of time to Europe. We'll see her in a couple of weeks again. And she and her group is looking up all the documents we need. So we work with maps, pictures, after action reports, company reports, morning reports to get as much information as possible. And then we go also online, like watching videos you guys make with the veterans, because sometimes they will give extra information.
Yep.
And that's the role of the citizen historian in all of this. You just heard Bob mention how important it is to have sites that capture firsthand personal accounts from the people who were there, and how important they are to putting these histories back together again. And we just like to wrap up this video by thanking the Manhay Museum, Maggie, the owner. Peter Kranz, by the way, was there as well. He was very instrumental in all this. He is head of Ned Vision Publishing. And if you haven't had a chance to check it, he has a website at nedvision.com, nedvision.com. We'll put the link in our comment section. And having Bob being able to take us around the museum was amazing. We have a few more clips we're going to share, but this is literally the tip of the proverbial iceberg. There is so much more in this museum. If you're ever in this area, do yourself a favor, roll in there and check it out. A lot of the, they spend so much time making sure that all of the displays are authentic. They actually have reenactors, videos of reenactors. We'll show you some of those in future clips that help amplify the message they're trying to portray in various elements of the museum. They have a bunch of equipment that was captured and repurposed in that area that is in this museum. So we want to thank the Manhay Museum for being such gracious hosts to us. And we've got a couple more videos coming up that we'll share with you. So please check those out.